What have you learned along the way? What have you learned that you can help a brand new podcaster, somebody who's, 2 years or less, maybe they're about to start. What have you learned over the last 50, 60 episodes that you want to give to that person?
So much. I mean, first and foremost, I think having a very clear vision for what you want to talk about is going to obviously shape how often you film, what kind of setup you're filming in, whether it's really conversational like our shows are, or something more polished and very buttoned up. It really depends on who your end audience is. But with that, I think having a certain degree of flexibility with your audience and understanding who they are as they interact with your content makes you the best possible podcast host. So don't be so married to your vision that you ignore different opportunities and lose the kind of playful side of podcasting, but have something that tethers you so that when you are experimenting with different things, like we don't typically cover politics at our channel level, but given the current events, it seemed like we really needed to. So having that room to experiment and saying, all right, I'm going to give it a whirl. I'm going to measure my metrics. I'm going to examine those afterward and see if this was worth it. And then make a decision about whether or not I touch these kinds of topics again is going to lead to a really successful long-term podcast.
Yeah, a lot of good stuff. I mean, having a clear vision is crystal, like it's so important regardless, I should say, if we are in a relationship, if we are starting a business, a school, a not-for-profit, or a podcast, having a clear understanding and idea of what it is that we want to accomplish. And then you also talked about with your podcast, it being, some podcasts, they might want it to be more conversational, while others might want it to be more polished. Mm-hmm. And the third point that I heard you share is one that we talk about a lot on this show, and it's really just understanding and knowing your avatar inside and out, like really understanding who they are, what they're looking for, what they want, what keeps them up at night, so that you can put the absolute best content for that person. Do you feel, I want you to think of a mistake. Think of something you did wrong along the way. Maybe with the avatar, but it could be anything. In your journey of 50, 60, 70 episodes so far with one or two podcasts, what is something that you learned because you did it wrong the first time?
Something that immediately jumps out. So our two podcasts, one is the Be a Better Landlord show. One is Adventures in Landlording. I'm going to talk about Be a Better Landlord here for a second. That's where we bring in expert guests, so people in the industry, to offer insights to our audience via a very conversational format. One time, we had a really lovely local industry expert reach out. She wanted to be on our podcast. This was early days. We really hadn't had many guests yet. So we said, oh, of course, I did my research. I looked at her LinkedIn. I looked at her network connections. I was like, okay, this should be a really great guest. Like, I've never heard her speak. She's not really been on a podcast before, but this should be really good. My coworkers had talked to her, the whole 9 yards. I'm laughing because we get into the studio, and unfortunately, for as sweet of a woman as she was a terrible guest. She actually was not the expert in what she claimed to be an expert in. And it became very clear through my line of questioning that she just could not offer some of these very basic answers that an expert should have been able to offer. It was a huge learning lesson, because in that moment, I could either scrub the entire episode and just say, thank you for coming in. Here's a complimentary hat. Please see yourself out. Or I could find something that she was an expert in and give her the opportunity to really shine in that realm, even though it was not what I was planning for the episode. I tend to be someone who looks for constructive solutions to problems. So I said, all right, let's pivot. I know that you're an expert in this topic that I saw you wrote a blog on. It's not what we were planning to talk about today. Would you be interested in going down this route? And she was really excited, because she had obviously been feeling very embarrassed when she couldn't answer some of the basic questions I was asking. So we just took a breath, took it from the top, and recorded a really solid episode on something entirely different than what we were originally intending to cover.